Good evening, I'm Chris Nachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. The claims period for the First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement will open to eligible children and caregivers next month. Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepanak was in Winnipeg today to make the announcement. APTN reporter Sierra Bettens has more.
On March 10th, the $23.3 billion First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement will open to claimants in the first two of 9 classes.
While no amount of money can make up for the harms done or for your childhood, this $23 billion compensation settlement, the largest in Canada's history, is an important acknowledgement of the harm First Nations experienced in this racist system that has broken so many lives and so many families.
Eligible claimants are First Nations individuals who were removed from their homes as children, either on reserve or in the Yukon, and placed into care funded by Indigenous Services Canada between April 1st, 1991 and March 31st, 2022. Their caregivers are also eligible. To apply, claimants must have a valid government-issued ID, a mailing address, and a bank account. The consulting firm Deloitte has implemented a claimant support framework to help simplify the process.
We will have regional liaisons available in each region across the country, and these people will be available to be the point of contact for all the First Nations and their organizations in each region. As well, we have a contact center that'll be open every day. Anyone can reach out through various means through that contact center.
Adult age claimants have 3 years to submit their claim. Minors may submit a claim up to 2 years before they reach the age of majority, but will not receive compensation until they are of age.
You do not need to hire a lawyer. You do not need to pay anyone to help you submit a claim. No one from the administrator Deloitte will reach out to you or request your personal information, financial details, or ask you to tell your story of being in the system. If someone does this, this is fraud. Please report it to the administrator.
Those seeking more information may visit fnchildclaims.ca or call the administrator at 1-833-852-0755. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Changes are also coming for Jordan's Principal. According to Indigenous Services Canada, in the past year, nearly 3 million claims have been approved for Jordan's Principal, a 367% increase. Concerns have recently been raised over alleged misuse of Jordan's Principal. School divisions on the prairies have also announced dozens of job cuts for educational assistances due to a lack of Jordan's Principal funding. For more, we're joined now by Patty Haidu, the Minister of Indigenous Services Canada. Minister Haidu, thank you so much for joining us today. You announced changes to Jordan's Principal. Can you clarify what those changes are?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, Jordan's Principal is a really important service delivery mechanism for First Nations children, and it's really about supporting equal access to a wide range of health and social and educational products and services. Each child might have a unique situation, and of course, this program has grown in leaps and bounds since the Government of Canada began to support First Nations with Jordan's Principal funding dollars and services. However, because of that growth, many communities have noticed that the backlog or the number of cases in the queue for decision has grown along with the program. And of course, we have to continue to protect Jordan's Principal, protect its long-term sustainability. So today I announced some changes that will help decision makers streamline decisions around Jordan's Principal, help providers ensure they provide the right information so that those decisions can be made quickly, and really start to create some parameters around some of the larger group requests that we're seeing coming in for provinces and territories in a way that has really, in some ways, disadvantaged communities.
Minister, we've heard of urgent applications to Jordan's Principal for things like modeling headshots and recreational items like a zipline kit. Is this why changes are being made?
Listen, I can't speak to individual requests because each request, is very specifically attached to a child. But what I can tell you is that what we have seen is because of the volume of requests and because of the fact that so many of those requests are urgent in nature, actually do relate directly to the health of that child. In some cases, very specific health requests, that we have to have a better process to streamline requests and to make sure that the information with each request is really clearly identified to, first of all, determine, in some cases, who the child is, and secondly, to determine how that child not having access to that services is in any way delaying or harming their outcomes from a health or a social perspective. So these new guidelines will make it a lot easier for providers, for families to apply for Jordan's Principle, and they will also help weed out some of the extra requests that in many cases have not been provided with the kinds of detail that decision makers need in order to approve those requests.
And Minister, are you briefly able to explain what are some of the things that won't be covered anymore?
Well, one easy one to explain is big, large group requests from provinces and territories for education supports within off-reserve school systems. So we have seen an increase in provinces and territories applying for public servants, essentially, to staff public education systems where children of First Nations descent are attending. And these children are urban children. They may not be at all related to or living on a First Nation. And the detail around which children are being served is clearly not encapsulated in those requests. We believe at the federal government that every child does deserve equity and access to education supports and to health supports to ensure the best success for that child. But we also believe that provinces and territories have a responsibility within their own jurisdiction to provide equity in education. So that's a good example of the types of requests that won't be considered. Provinces and territories have been notified of that in writing.
Do you think these changes will help speed things up, and will they fall in line with the orders from the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal?
We believe this will help speed things up. In fact, many of the changes will ensure that providers need to provide some very essential and I would say basic information. For example, we've received invoices from providers that don't contain complete information about the treatment date, about children's names, and about the kinds of treatment that children have received. That really does delay the decision making by the decision maker on those group requests. And now there will be clear guidelines for applicants about what kinds of referrals are necessary for different kinds of supports or services, what kind of information needs to be contained within those requests so that decision makers can make those decisions more quickly. There's less back and forth from providers to the Government of Canada, and the queue can move more quickly. This is really about efficiency of service and really the integrity of the program. We want people to continue, including non-Indigenous Canadians, to have confidence in Jordan's Principle that it's meeting its goal of addressing fundamental equity for First Nations children. And that means we need to ensure the integrity of the program through a process that people can understand.
Minister, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Beeson.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre announced today that if elected, his government will build a military base in Iqaluit. It would protect Canada's sovereignty and the Northwest Passage from Russian and Chinese interference. F-35 fighter jets and maritime patrol craft would be stationed at the base to protect the region from possible incoming threats. Poilievre says this will allow for more goods and services to flow in the region. He says the base will require the presence of 4,000 rangers. He hopes the Inuit will fill this role, citing knowledge passed down to be essential. Poilievre says that he would build the base within 2 years of taking office.
The Canada First plan of the Conservative government will build Canada's first permanent Arctic military base since the Cold War. It will be CFB Iqaluit right here in this community. We will build it in consultation with military experts, local government leaders, and the Indigenous population. Iqaluit already has a functional a forward operating location and a functional airport and seaport that can accommodate the Canadian forces.
It has been almost a week since the bodies of 2 women and 2 men were found in a home on the Carry the Kettle Nakota Nation in southern Saskatchewan, and there are still no answers yet on who might be responsible. Meanwhile, the people in Carry the Kettle are still on edge. The school has been closed for the week, and the RCMP are still investigating. CTK Chief Scott Ashapi said police arriving in CTK last Friday was part of their ongoing investigation and there was no imminent danger. He said the community is still on high alert and he has received messages that many of the residents there are afraid for their safety. Last Tuesday on February 4th at around 11 a.m., the Fowl Hills Police Service found 4 people deceased in a home in CTK. 4 hours later, a firearm incident happened in Zaakame-Anishinaabek, about 40 minutes away from CTK. Both the neighboring Cowessess and Ochapowace First Nation said the RCMP were looking for 2 suspects, including 29-year-old Keegan Panapakisik, following that firearm incident. The Regina Police Service later found Panapakisik early Wednesday morning in a home in Matthew Crescent in Regina and arrested him along with 2 other suspects. Saskatchewan RCMP said Panapakisik was a person of interest. However, police are still trying to determine if the CTK and Zaakame incidents are connected, but did say the home in CTK was targeted. RCMP continues their investigation this week. Keegan Panapakisik, the man involved in that firearm incident in Zaakame-Anishinaabek, will make his first court appearance in Regina tomorrow. Meanwhile, a wake and funeral service will be held this week for one of the victims in CTK. Award-winning singer-songwriter and a longtime advocate for Indigenous people, Buffy Sainte-Marie has been stripped of her Order of Canada by the Governor-General. Governor-General Mary Simon made the move on January 3rd, but it wasn't made public until last Friday when the story appeared in the Canada Gazette, the federal government's official newspaper. Stripping Sainte-Marie of the Order of Canada follows a 2023 report by CBC that questions her claims of being Cree from Saskatchewan, being adopted out and being adopted by well-known Cree elder Emily Piapot of the Piapot Cree Nation near Regina. According to that CBC report, they found a birth certificate that showed she was born in 1941 in Massachusetts. Sainte-Marie's U.S. family members said she was not adopted and doesn't have Indigenous ancestry, and when the family was going to speak out in the 1970s and 80s, they were warned they could face legal action. Sainte-Marie has said that CBC report contained mistakes and that she has never lied about her identity. In a statement posted to social media, Natanis Piapot had this to say about her auntie Buffy Sainte-Marie. My aunt has dedicated her whole life to helping our people. She did so well in her 1980s. She did so well into her 80s. I thank those who have showed us humanity and dignity in light of gotcha journalism. We never asked for this to happen, and we love and stand next to our relative, no matter what. We have to take a short break, but when we come back, Tina House will take you to the Invictus Games in Vancouver. Thanks for staying with us. The opening ceremonies for the 2025 Invictus Games kicked off this past weekend in Vancouver, and more than 500 competitors from 23 different nations are participating in various sports. APTN's Tina House has the story.
The Invictus Games is an opportunity for wounded war veterans to participate in sports on their journey of healing. With the lighting of the cauldron, the Games officially started. The opening ceremonies kicked off with a star-studded lineup of performers, including musician Chris Martin from Coldplay, who performed with his choir the theme song that he wrote for the Games.
Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever God's made for my unconquerable soul.
And other performers such as Canadian singer Nelly Furtado was joined by OG Cree hip-hop rapper Matt Mack, along with the dance troupe Ill Abilities. Next up was folk pop artist Noah Kahan, and global superstar Katy Perry closed the show. The Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, addressed a sold-out crowd of 40,000 people at BC Place in downtown Vancouver.
I would like to begin by honouring the First Nations who are hosting this year's Games. Lil'wat, Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. Heitsap, Kukwilum. From the bid for the Games through to this week's competition, we have walked together side by side on this journey. And we are so grateful to you for having these Games on your land.
Paulette Doctor is Maori from New Zealand. She's retired from the Navy, and she's also a two-time competitor in the Invictus Games.
I'll always be thankful for having the opportunity to come and be amongst the community, be amongst the family, where again, there are no explanations needed. We're all here fighting that same journey to find ourselves again and to get stronger and get past those barriers that would otherwise keep us down.
Ryan Taniguchi is a war veteran from Maui, Hawaii, and served 2 tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, and says the energy at this year's opening of the Games was electric.
The power of all the speakers, the power of the athletes when they walked in, and the butterflies as we walked up to get to presenting of the flag. I got to be out there when the athletes were arriving to the arena, and I thought that was so surreal because the excitement and the honored feeling that we both shared.
As we embark on this year's competition, here is my challenge to all of you. Show the world how you behave under completely impossible circumstances. Show the world your fearlessness. Show the world the grandeur in your attempt at victory. Show the world why you are Invictus. Thank you.
Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Thank you, Tina. Photo of the day and weather is up next. Plus, we'll take you to this year's Yukon Quest. We're back in less than 3 minutes. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Thanks to our Associate Director, Lesia, for sharing with us this picture of the Netawea River Trail in downtown Winnipeg, where one of the warming huts is called Wrong Turn. It sure looks like it was a beautiful day in Winnipeg there, Les. Thanks for sending that in. Send us your photos to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. On the east, -10 in Charlottetown, Halifax, -4. Cartwright, -15, Happy Valley, Goose Bay, -14. Saguenay, -11, Quebec City, -6. Toronto, -2, Peterborough, -4. Big Trout Lake, -19, Sioux Lookout, -19. -21 in Churchill, Thompson, -21. -21 in Winnipeg, Dauphin, -20. -20 in Estevan, North Battleford, same temperature. Stony Rapids, -22, Uranium City, -24. -17 in Grand Prairie, Peace River, -18. -13 in Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, -16. Campbell River, -1, Tofino, 2. -11 in Smithers, Prince Rupert, 0. Dawson, -23, Mayo, same temperature. Fort Simpson, -21, Wati, -27. -14 in Fort McPherson, Inuvik, -10. -28 in Baker Lake, Cambridge Bay, -20. And Clyde River, -24, Resolute, -25. The Yukon Quest is said to be one of the world's toughest dog sled races. The extreme outdoor race includes freezing temperatures, steep inclines, and of course, sled dogs, which need to be cared for throughout it all. Sarah Connors tells us the heartwarming story behind one rookie musher and his dog team.
They're just puppies, and they're the ones that I ran in the Quest, and it's their first experience with the Quest. And
mushing is in Johnny Cooey's blood.
I was born into it.
The Tetlit-Quitchin musher from Fort McPherson, Northwest Territories, comes from a family of mushers. Cooey is a musher here at Keystone Kennels, just outside of Whitehorse.
All right, another musher coming in, Viv 120, Johnny Cooey sponsored by Braeburn Lodge.
On February 2nd, he fulfilled a lifelong dream by mushing in the Yukon Quest 175.
Just pulling that hook, taking off from the starting line was such a big relief because we work so hard to get to that point.
The Yukon Quest is not for the faint of heart. Mushers in the 175 raced 175 miles, or 280 kilometers, from the community of Teslin to Ross River in extreme cold.
I can't say it's for everybody because my first night camping out on the Quest Trail, it was about -40 and I slept outside with the dogs, and luckily I didn't freeze.
While 3 dogs had to be dropped from the team for their own health and safety, Cooey finished 5th place out of 7. It's a placement he's proud of considering he only had 2 months to train and all but one of his sled dogs were rookies.
I was really proud of the pups, and they did a really good job, and I think I've done a really good job with them too, so I was really happy with that.
Look at that view!
Cooey says the experience also helped him feel more connected to his First Nations culture. Dog sledding was invented by Northern Indigenous people as an efficient winter travel method to haul items across snow-covered terrain. Cooey says it's an honor to retrace his ancestors' footsteps.
And you're living through these trails that your ancestors used to once go through with dogs, and it's just a beautiful feeling. It's I can't explain it because it's so fulfilling. And this little lady here, Phoebe, she's a first-time leader, and she just started training 2 months with me.
With his first race behind him, there's now the question of whether or not Cooey will participate in the bigger Yukon Quest, the 450, in the future. If that happens, he and the team will have more training and more experience when competing in one of the world's toughest races. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Mendenhall.
Great story, Sarah. Thanks for that. And that's your evening newscast for this Monday, February 10th. We're back with your daytime and evening newscast, same place, same time. Make sure to join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Accès.